Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch. We got another story of police corruption for you, and this time it's in the Polk County Sheriff's Florida office area. And if you guys keep up the channel and or live in Florida, you know this prick here, man. He's a freaking Nazi. Oh my God, all of it. Full Nazi, man. Unconstitutional, police state, military bullshit. Anyways. Alright, they had an accident, which is the sad part of this story, that happened in their place. A drunk driver, some kids are just getting off a bus. Drunk driver plowed right through the kids getting off a bus, then crashed into another car with a pregnant woman. Multiple kids are dead. Okay, so this isn't a normal story. That's why I'm here on this page. Alright? The cop that hit the kids, that's correct, people, is an ex-cop from up north, I think they said Mississippi, who is an alcoholic. And so this is my point of making an intro to this. This is going to be a long videos, man. This has been all over the news. This is the guy that went and arrested the guy. You know, you got all this cop sucking going on here. You know, COPWATCH has been here. This is the ex-cop right here. Alright? He's got streaming video. I'm going to put it in here and all that. Okay? So here's my point of the video. All the agencies up north knew this guy was an alcoholic, but said he was a great cop. They all knew he was an alcoholic. And the thick blue line of corruption did not take away his license, did not put him in jail, did not put him in prison, and now people are dead. And so that's the point that I want to make with this stupid freaking prick. He's slamming, oh, drunk drivers are bad, and, you know, he's bad. Fuck that, man. Cops are bad, sheriffs are bad because of the thick blue line of corruption, you fuckhead. It's because of your stupid thick ass corrupts your unions, your sheriffs, the blue line of corruption. The reason why the fucking kids are dead is because of you dickheads! Stop the thick blue line of corruption! Damn it! He would have already been in prison and wouldn't have killed anybody, you fuckers!
Is ABC Action News.
Cam, you don't seem to understand what's going on here. You ran over 5 kids.
So drunk he didn't even realize he ran down a group of children at a bus stop, killing one of them. Tonight, where those kids are now and how the community is coming together to help. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jameson Ewell.
And I'm Wendy Ryan. Thanks for joining us. The sheriff saying that driver, John Campfield, was so intoxicated and so clueless to the severity of his actions, he even commended investigators on their good work.
Our Carson Chambers is live in Bartow at the courthouse where charges have been upgraded to vehicular homicide. Carson.
Right, and John Campfield made an appearance through closed-circuit TV here at the Bartow courthouse today. In court, he actually bowed his head, and many other Polk County officials bowed theirs too. It's a photograph that leaves a lump deep in your throat.
I've seen a lot. I've been involved in a lot.
2 school backpacks sitting in the grass on the side of this Poinciana road.
For him to drive and leave them on the side of the road as if they were not even there, they were nothing. It hurts.
5 Dundee Ridge Academy middle schoolers simply walking home from their bus stop.
5th count of DUI.
Kids no match, the sheriff says, for John Campfield driving drunk in this black car.
This drunk man in this car drove off of the road and ran through these children and scattered them like a bowling ball through bowling pins.
Deputy Jonathan Quintana was a dad when he took the phone call from his 11-year-old daughter.
She started screaming frantically, Dad, Dad, help me, Dad, I need your help. And I assumed the worst.
But when the off-duty deputy came running barefoot from his nearby home, he quickly got to work, arresting the DUI driver down the road where Campfield crashed again, this time into a pregnant woman's car.
Deputy Quintana, upon taking him into custody, told him, he said, do you know what you did? And he said, well, I ran into this car, and he said, no, you just run over 2 kids. He said, well, if I did, then just shoot me.
13-year-old Juan Mina seriously hurt at an Orlando area hospital. 13-year-old Jaheim Robertson died today.
I'm at a loss for words this morning.
That lump in the back of your throat, so hard to swallow. 2 backpacks make it bitter. And 3 other teens were actually hit on the passenger side of his car. They were treated and released at the scene. We do know that Canfield was on the job as a police officer for 18 years in Mississippi. And the sheriff says that he blew a .14 7 hours after this accident. We are live in Polk County. I'm Carson Chambers, ABC Action News.
Heartbreaking. Thank you, Carson. And meanwhile, as soon as that driver hit the kids, many neighbors rushed to the area to help. And as Carson just mentioned, an off-duty deputy plus a nurse and several others ran as soon as they heard the impact. Their training kicking in to try and help these kids survive this. ABC Action News reporter Ryan Race takes us back to the scene where many are still grieving right now.
The chaos that unfolded when a suspected drunk driver plowed through a group of kids can be heard in a series of 911 calls.
He's knocked out. He's not waking up. We need 911 right now. Okay.
Neighbors rushing to help the injured, including a nurse who can be heard taking charge of the scene.
Guys, I need everybody to stay calm, okay? They're trying to help me, but you got to stay calm.
Azaria Martin just stepped foot outside to walk to her car. She saw the group of teens get off the bus and start walking home in the grass like they do every day after school.
I turned my head and I hear do-do-do-do.
Her friend got a good look at the black car that plowed right through them.
And then he just kept going. Like, why would you? He didn't even stop.
Jaheim Robertson took the blunt of it and died this morning. His classmate Juan Mina is in critical condition.
It could have been anyone. It could have been your family member, anyone. And then when the mothers came, they were so shaken up. One of them didn't even park her car. That's how shaken up she was.
There is no sidewalk on this stretch of road, but it may not have even mattered because investigators say the suspected drunk driver swerved so far off the road to hit the kids. Late this afternoon, friends and strangers gathered to grieve and remember Jaheim.
Because a lot of people were close to him.
The 13-year-old described as fun and energetic, who easily made friends. All 5 teens who got hit probably never saw it coming.
It's horrible that, these kids had to suffer because of somebody so negligent to drive drunk and just leave, not even care that he hit kids.
Not care, or as investigators imply, too drunk to understand. In Polk County, Ryan Race, ABC Action News.
Visibility while driving at night.
Don't they know they're supposed to use the crosswalk? Hey, you on your phone, put that down until you cross the street. Whoa, stop! Can't you see there are pedestrians crossing here? I can't take it anymore. Drivers, put your phone down. Be alert. Watch for pedestrians, especially when approaching a crosswalk. Pedestrians, always use the crosswalk and push the button so I can help you cross safely. Alert today, alive tomorrow, because safety doesn't happen by accident.
He was one of the very best detectives we ever had, but he had a problem. Alcohol, the bottle.
Sheriff Grady Judd is talking about John Canfield, the man who spent nearly 20 years in law enforcement, now accused of killing a young man when he ran into a group of kids as they got off a school bus. Now, Canfield's charges just got a lot more serious. Let me tell you some of them. DUI manslaughter, leaving the scene of a crash, among other charges. And these are some of the pictures you're seeing here of that vehicle.
Right, and also reportedly hit a car that had a pregnant woman inside. Thankfully, she is okay tonight. The Now's Carson Chambers walks us through exactly what else happened.
This drunk man in this car drove off of the road and ran through these children and scattered them like a bowling ball through bowling pins.
3 pictures tell the story. A wrecked car, school backpacks abandoned in the grass off a Polk County road, and a mugshot.
For him to drive and leave them on the side of the road as if they were not even there, they were nothing. It hurts.
John Canfield didn't even stop after plowing through 5 middle schoolers who were just getting off their school bus.
Deputy Quintana, upon taking him into custody, told him, he said, "Do you know what you did?" And he said, well, "I ran into this car." And he said, "No, You just run over 2 kids. He said, well, if I did, then just shoot me.
This deputy got a call from his daughter, who got off the school bus here too.
She started screaming frantically, Dad, help me, Dad, I need your help. And I assumed the worst.
Deputy Quintana rushed barefoot to the crash to find 2 13-year-old boys, Juan Mina and Jaheim Robertson, bleeding and critically hurt.
I've seen a lot. I've been involved in a lot.
Camfield was drunk, blowing a .14 blood alcohol level 7 hours after the DUI hit and run, according to the sheriff. He's also a former police officer of 18 years.
Drunk. He doesn't care about anyone but John Camfield. He didn't care about those children he ran over.
In Polk County, I'm Carson Chambers for the Now Tampa Bay.
Good morning, folks. Thank you for coming to be with us while we update you about this horrific event. I'm joined today, as you know, by our awesome Superintendent Jackie Bird of the school system and Deputy Quintana, who had a very important role in this investigation yesterday afternoon. But let me start by giving you the events up to this date. It started as a typical Thursday afternoon. The children from the middle school got off of the school bus and the school bus drove away. Deputy Quintana's 11-year-old daughter had called him on the phone and said, hey, Dad, I'm off the bus. Would you come pick me up? And he said, sure. And about that time, the 11-year-old starts screaming into the phone, telling her dad that some kids had been injured, had been run over by a car. Deputy Quintana ran down to the site of the crash, saw 2 kids significantly injured, ran back to his house to get his patrol car, and came back to provide first aid until EMS arrived. He saw that there were some nurses on scene, and a witness said the suspect's down the road. He drove down the road and took the suspect successfully into custody after he crashed into another vehicle and injured a lady who was 4 months pregnant. What we learned as soon as we got control of the situation, there wasn't just 2 children injured, there were 5. This drunk man in this car drove off of the road and ran through these children and scattered them like a bowling ball through bowling pins. Then he left the scene. And as he got down the road a ways, he had another crash and injured the lady that was pregnant. He was taken into custody. Deputy Quintana, upon taking him into custody, told him, he said, do you know what you did? And he said, well, I ran into this car. And he said, no, you just run over 2 kids. He said, well, if I did, then just shoot me. But let's talk about the suspect, John Camfield. They know him as Cam. He spent 18 years in law enforcement in the state of Mississippi. He had an alcohol problem. I talked to one of the sheriffs that he worked for. He worked for police departments and sheriff's offices. And the sheriff said, I've been in law enforcement a long time, and he was one of the very best detectives we ever had. He was an awesome interviewer. He knew how to put together good criminal cases. but he had a problem. Alcohol, the bottle. We checked, we found out that he's worked for 10 different law enforcement agencies in Mississippi between 1994 and 2012 when his career ended. He used to brag that John Camfield said that he and Captain Morgan's had a special relationship. Rum was his drink of choice. The detective started the investigation. He refused the breathalyzer test. As the investigation was ongoing, he was critiquing the traffic homicide detectives. He was critiquing their steps that they were taking and complimenting them that you guys know what you're doing around here. When he refused the blood draw, so we obtained a search warrant. We had him down at the jail, and he was kind of lighthearted about all this. And Greg Gorick, who is our lieutenant, knew him because after he came here, he was at one time the director of public safety for the old Cypress Gardens. And Greg said, "Cam, you don't seem to understand what's going on here. You ran over 5 kids. And one of them is exceptionally critical condition. We don't know if he's going to survive." And he said, "Well, if that's the case, just put me under the jail." He then agreed to a breathalyzer in addition to the blood draw, and 7 hours after the crash, he still read a .14, almost double the limit. 7 hours after the crash. Well, John Camfield's right. We didn't put him under the jail, but we put him into the jail, and our goal is that he never, ever, ever gets a chance to drive a car or walk around a free person again. As of this morning, the hospital has informed our traffic homicide folks that they don't see any way that Jaheim Robertson, who is only 13 years old, can survive his injuries. Juan Mina, who is 13 years old, was struck and has significant injuries, has a lot of broken bones in his face, but they expect him to recover. Then there's Jonte Robinson, who's 15 years old. He was slightly injured, treated, and released at the scene. Jasmine Robertson, who is 14 years old. I'm sorry, Jonte Robinson and Jasmine Robertson. And Jasmine Robertson is the sister to Jaheim Robertson, who is very, very, very critical. And Ryan Price was also injured. So 3 were treated at the scene and released. 2 are currently at Arnold Palmer being treated for some significant issues. Ladies and gentlemen, we work traffic fatalities frequently. Last year, I think we worked 80 different traffic fatalities in the unincorporated area of Polk County alone. And every one of them are tragic. But not one of them last year rises to the level of the total disregard for human life that John Camfield created when he drove totally drunk, totally reckless, totally out of control, and run over those children. That could have been your children or my children or grandchildren, millions of children across this nation yesterday afternoon and this morning and this afternoon are going to be standing beside the roadway to get onto or off of a public school bus. And these kids weren't in the road. They weren't misbehaving. They weren't cutting up. They were just being middle school children on their way home. Jaheim didn't make it home, and Juan didn't make it home. Now, before the superintendent, who was out most of the night and was back at the schools early this morning talks to you. I want you to hear from Deputy Quintana. If you notice when he walked in the room, he doesn't normally walk like that, but he can testify after you run a few blocks barefooted that it's kind of rough on your feet. So we're not even going to let him work tonight as much as he wants to. He's got to go home and heal up a little bit himself. But he did what a deputy should do, and he certainly did what every father should do. Tell him what you know.
Yes, sir, Sheriff. Thank you. How you doing? Yesterday, I received a phone call from my daughter, as I always do. When she gets off the bus, we have a routine. She calls me to make sure that I'm home and that I'm going to be able to go pick her up or watch her walk to the house. As I was talking to her yesterday, she asked me to pick her up. I was in bed. I said, okay. Literally about 3 seconds later, she starts screaming frantically, Dad, help me, Dad, I need your help. And I assumed the worst. I got out of my bed and I ran towards my daughter, not knowing what was going on. She, as soon as I get closer to her, I notice that she's up and she's okay. I go up to her and I ask her what happened. She said, Dad, the neighbor and my friend got hit by a black car. I was like, okay, at which point I switched from being a father to doing my job. I assessed the situation. I saw that the two kids were pretty injured. I noticed that one of the kids was bleeding profusely through his face. I asked him to sit down, at which point other parents arrived on scene, and I ran back to my home where my patrol car was located. I grabbed my car because inside the trunk we carry our first aid kit. As I got home, I didn't have any shoes. I yell at my wife, ask her to give me some shoes. She throws me some sandals and the keys to my patrol car, and I immediately go back to the scene. As soon as I made it back to the scene, I observed that there was a nurse. There was two nurses on scene, one on each child, trying to treat them. One of the people that were there, I didn't catch her name. She advised me that the guy that did it was down the road. I then get back into my vehicle and I drive up to where he was supposed to be located. As soon as I get on into the road, I observed that the vehicle had crashed into another vehicle and the driver had stumbled out of the vehicle. I parked right behind the vehicle with my emergency lights on, and I immediately detained the subject, the suspect of the vehicle crash. Once I did that, I advised our dispatchers that the subject was detained and that we needed additional rescue services for the female that was on scene. I then waited on scene. An officer from Winter Haven arrived. He assisted me with traffic control and allowed me to sit down for a little bit because my feet were hurting a little bit at that time. At which point, traffic units arrived and they assumed the investigation. They assumed my part of it and took the subject into their custody, and I was relieved.
Good morning. It is truly sad for us in our community and our county. As you heard the sheriff say that Jaheim and Juan, they did not make it home. They're in Arnold Palmer. We were there late last night with the families, and after talking to Jaheim's family, they have no other family. They're from Chicago, and they've been here about 8 years. When we sat with his sisters, all they wanted to know is he going to be okay? Is he going to be okay? I'm at a loss for words this morning. This is truly tragic for us. But to have a driver not even care about what happens and keep going, that should never happen when children are doing what they're supposed to do. They got off the school bus. They were going home. They did everything right. And they were going home. And for him to drive and leave them on the side of the road as if they were not even there, they were nothing. It hurts. It hurts me as a parent. It hurts me as the leader of this community and the school system. But most importantly, when I looked into his sister's eyes last night, the hurt was even greater. To know that all they wanted to know was Jaheim going to be okay? I spoke with Juan. Juan was, he was in good spirits last night. And he was able to speak to me and talk to me. And he was worried about school. And I told him, don't you worry about school. That's one thing I can control and I can help you with. Don't worry about that. I just needed him to get better. Both families are very, very hurt. They were there. They had not eaten last night, so we made sure the sheriff's office and our office made sure they had something to eat last night so that they can take care of themselves. They're at a loss for words right now. They could not come to grips with what happened, but they did ask for our prayers. So as our community, as we rally around, what we can do for them right now is to pray for them. And let's just uplift them and let's pray that those siblings, Jaheim's sisters, can find that answer that they need, because they're wanting to know if he's coming home, if he's going to be okay.
Any questions?
What time did the actual incident happen?
About 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon.
Why so long to notify the media?
I'm not even going to entertain that question.
Deputy Quintana, can you talk to us about what it was like to show up to a scene like that, to see those kids on the floor, and the impact it made on you and those kids as well? Because it must have been life-changing, not only for you, but you're an adult, these teens.
Honestly, I mean, I've been doing this job for almost 4 years, and I've seen a lot. I've been involved in a lot. Nothing compares to hearing your daughter ask for help, and you can't do nothing.
Any other questions?
Can you just talk about the fact that this was another law enforcement officer or a former law enforcement officer?
You know, when Deputy Quintana arrested him, he actually made this statement about, give me some respect. I'm a law enforcement officer. Well, no, you're not a law enforcement officer, and you deserve any respect at all. Because law enforcement officers don't act like that. People who are wannabes and shouldn't be's may act like that, but professional law enforcement officers don't get in the car and act like that. But this is a guy who was an alcoholic, who bragged about loving Captain Morgan and his rum, and he is a total embarrassment. And Deputy Quintana arrested him. Our traffic homicide people have him locked up, and that's where we intend to keep him, hopefully for the rest of his life. So he's put people in jail. Now he's going to get to see it from the other side.
And is this his vehicle right here?
This is his vehicle.
And so can you just tell us, so the children are at Arnold Palmer?
The children are at Arnold Palmer Hospital right now, Jaheim and Juan. Yes.
And so,
The other three were treated at the scene and released.
but Jaheim is still alive right now?
Jaheim is still alive, and we are told by the hospital, and I'm not sharing anything with you that hasn't been shared with the family, He is extremely, extremely critical conditions, and it's doubtful that he can recover.
Sheriff, when you look at this vehicle, I mean, that's some serious impact to damage a vehicle to that degree. I mean, he had to really mow these children down.
Well, he not only hit the children, he hit another vehicle as well. So this is not just from the children, but we recovered blood and hair and tissue from the children as well from this vehicle. And we currently have this vehicle to do further forensic studies on it and to seize all of the evidence. It's now locked up in our crime scene area. You can be sure of this, that this investigation will be complete, it will be thorough, and it will be overtly convincing when we do all of the things we need to do. And it's a long process.
What was the suspect actually doing here? He's originally from Mississippi.
He lives here.
Oh.
He lives here now. He's been back and forth, but he lives here.
How long has he lived in Punta?
He's lived in that area. I don't know how long, but he actually lived here, and I understand that he went back to Mississippi. He's got arrest there. He's been arrested for DUI and driving on a suspended license there. And he was also arrested for public drunk in Mississippi. This is a man. John Camfield is a man who is an absolute, total drunk. He doesn't care about anyone but John Camfield. He didn't care about those children he ran over. He didn't care about that pregnant woman whose vehicle he ran into. He's had other law enforcement agencies. I had the one sheriff said, we tried and tried and tried to help him because he was a very competent law enforcement. Hold on a second. You want me to answer that phone for you? Let me say it again. The sheriff told us he was a very competent law enforcement officer when he was sober. He said, we tried and tried and tried to help him. But he was more interested in himself and his drinking and his alcohol than he was in his job, his employers, these children. This is a classic case. You're looking at the guy that needs to be in prison for the rest of his life, because if he's not in prison, the community around him is not safe. And we're going to do everything we can to accommodate him with a very long prison sentence.
Was he fired because of his drinking?
He's worked for 10 different agencies. They shuffled him around. And certainly when y'all dig into the aftermath of talking to all of them, you can probably get a better history. We just made a couple of quick phone calls this morning and found out this much.
It appears on his Facebook page that he was getting married?
In August, he told them he was getting married.
He was getting married in August.
If I was his fiance, I would scratch that date. He won't be available.
Does he have any kids, do you know?
I don't know.
How is the pregnant woman doing?
She's good. She was treated. She was transported and treated, but she's doing all right.
Was there anybody at the accident scene that was party to the accident, the victim, hid in any way, that you had to find family members that were not there in the neighborhood?
I don't know.
What did the pregnant woman say happened, like when he hit her? Did she see it coming, or did she park?
I don't have those details. Quite frankly, she didn't have significant injuries. She was treated and released, and she as significant as any crash like this is, she wasn't the focus of our minute details at that time. It was the children and the previous crash. And as Deputy Quintana didn't tell you, but John was so drunk that he fell into the deputy's patrol car and dented the car up.
Maybe he didn't catch this, but was he speeding?
We don't know. That will be information that's developed during the traffic homicide investigation. We've taken all the measurements, but he was driving fast enough to totally devastate children's lives.
Deputy, how close were you to this, or are you to the scene? How long did it take you to get there?
It only took me approximately a minute. As soon as my daughter started screaming, I got up and left my home. I lived at the end of that road. So I got there pretty quick.
And it's also important when he says he got out of bed, he works midnight shift.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was lounging around.
Deputy Quintana, how shocking was his demeanor to you as a law enforcement officer? I mean, this guy had no remorse, seems like.
I treated him with the utmost respect that we can during the circumstances, but I didn't care. I didn't care who he was at that time.
Was he crying with these children?
I'm sorry?
It seems like your child went to school with these kids. Did you know these children personally?
Yes. Every morning I drop off my daughter. Every morning I see those kids. Every afternoon I pick up my daughter. Every afternoon I see those kids.
Do you know a little bit about some of them that you can share with us?
I only know that one of the kids is my next door neighbor, and I'm very close with his father, his family, and he was one of the kids injured. So I've been in touch with them the whole night, and like the sheriff said, he's doing well.
And did your daughter say they saw or did they hear the car coming, or it was just out of nowhere?
No, my daughter said she didn't see anything. She didn't hear anything. Only when the car hit them and the kids flew. Is what she described to me.
And for the kids at the scene, are they going to be going through counseling, not just the ones that were there, but also just at school?
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
We have counselors this morning. We were at both schools. We have counselors at the schools this morning. They'll be there all day today, and if we have to return on Monday for them, we will. We've also offered, when we were there last night, counseling to both families if they need further counseling from any of the family members.
Ms. Bird, all 5 students went to the same middle school. That had to impact the entire school. Usually if it's one death, not the entire school, but 5. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, what are you hearing from the students that are there and the teachers that are with those students?
Well, it not only impacts the school, it's the entire community. And right
Sure,
now,
but you know them personally.
right.
They have a direct impact. Talk about that.
Right. Right now, we have the counselors out there, so we're allowing the children to express themselves through the grief counseling that we have on site. Some of them are very close. They know either the sister or the brother. They know both of them. So they're able to go through the counseling sessions with our grief counselors right now today as they're going through that. We left there quite naturally to come here for the press conference at this time. But we'll keep the counselors on site for the children and the families, any of the families that are there that need additional counseling.
Superintendent, did you have any process last night after the accident happened of just normal routine stuff of notifying your students' families, as well as like any of the other students that just may have attended the school?
The principals of both schools, they begin notifying the families and of everything and how that comes out. Also, our communications, we start notification. We'll put out a release of information. But when we got the information, quite natural, it was limited. When we received it last night as the sheriff, they were still doing their report. But we want to make sure we go through the process of beginning the notification. One of the things we want to make sure we do is notify staff at both school sites that we can have a meeting first thing in the morning so that we can provide the grief counseling, not only for the teachers and the staff, but for the children. So we want to make sure we covered all those bases, and we did that last night as quickly as we could. Both principals were at the hospital as well last night with the families.
I only got one school. There were 2 schools involved. What were the 2 schools?
We had Lake Marion Creek. Juan's mother is a teacher at Lake Marion Creek, so therefore that was an impact. They also went to Lake Marion Creek at one point. And with that being a close community, so they know each other, and they still know some of the students that are at the other school as well. Dundee Ridge Academy, they're both middle. Mm-hmm.
You can't prepare for something like this, can you?
No, you cannot.
Sheriff, do you know what the suspect was doing just prior to the accident, where he was going?
Drinking. I don't know. That's part of the follow-up investigation.
Have you talked to his fiance?
I haven't.
Sheriff, your message to him and people driving and doing these kind of things, you always have a really good statement you put out. If I missed that earlier, I apologize.
Well, the statement is clear that he is going to spend, we hope, the rest of his life in prison. And here's the message. The message is, you've damaged children for the rest of their lives. And we anticipate that at the end of the day, one child is going to lose his life as a result of your drinking, and you're driving. And for those of you who think, well, it can't happen to me, he didn't think it could happen to him either. But I can tell you this. He's not worthy of being called a former law enforcement officer. He's a crook. He's a criminal. And he's being treated as a criminal because that's the conduct he displayed.
And Sheriff, was there any video either from the school bus or from a patrol car of what happened?
There was none of the school bus. The school bus had already left the area. And we will, as part of our follow-up investigation, look to see if we can find any other video that's in the area. The initial areas we checked for video, because we've already started checking, has not revealed any at this point in the investigation. But keep in mind, you know, we just got this guy in jail a few hours ago. And it's a long technical process to successfully prepare a traffic homicide case. Our traffic homicide people are simply the absolute very best. They're the best trained with the best technology and, unfortunately, a great deal of experience. So it is a very slow, meticulous process to create a case against someone. And we want to make sure that John Camfield, who we knew via his job at the Oil Cypress Gardens as Cam, is locked up for a very, very long time.
Sheriff, question for me. If Jaheim does not survive, can you talk to us about the charges being upgraded?
The traffic homicide team is preparing now to upgrade the charges should he not survive.
Sheriff, could I ask you just about a different story, if you don't mind, very briefly, just to see if you have any information on it. There was evidently a firefighter that was seriously injured in his arm after encountering someone. Could you talk about that at all? Do you have anything on that?
Sure, I'll be more than happy to. It was another vehicle crash. It was about 8:53 p.m. on the 25th of April on Thornhill Road, just down the street here at Moonlight Pass. Battalion Chief Kevin Shireman came to the aid of a deputy. The crash occurred, the deputy arrived, someone said, there's the guy that was driving, he's walking away from the scene. So the deputy approached this gentleman and said, hey, I need your driver's license. The guy spun around, threw his keys, hit the deputy in the chest and said, it's in the car, get them yourself, and turn around to walk off. Of course, that didn't go very well with us. And at that point in time, he was placed under arrest, and the fight began. The deputy's trying to get him into custody and get him handcuffed, and that's when Battalion Chief Kevin Shireman came to help. Kevin Shireman's wife, by the way, is also a deputy. EMT Gilbert Thomas also came to help. It was a heck of a fight. This guy was obviously under the influence of something as well. So they got him down. As they were getting him handcuffed, he was still violently fighting with them. He turned around and he grabbed and bit the firefighter by the arm and literally filleted him, ripped him from his elbow to his wrist. Just ripped every bit of the meat off. And he is in Lakeland Regional Medical Center preparing to undergo skin grafts today. So he's been there since Wednesday, I believe it was, when it occurred. That was another violent confrontation this week that law enforcement's had. And our hearts goes out to Kevin Shireman, who I went to see in the hospital that evening, and I said, hey, Kevin, I'm sorry this happened, and I want to thank you for helping the deputy. He shrugged his shoulders. He said, Sheriff, I'd do it all over if I knew the outcome was going to be the same. That's the kind of men and women that work in this business.
The deputy's okay.
The deputy's okay. The deputy, you know, they're all skin up a little. You don't fight with a full-grown man on the ground or on the road without getting skin up. But yes, they're okay. But Kevin's got a long recovery. They've got to do skin grafts. And I can tell you, folks, when I came in early the next morning, because it happened late in the evening, and I saw that picture, when I was first briefed that the firefighter got bitten. And I go, we've seen bites before, and they can be some pretty nasty bites. And I came in and they said, no, boss, you ain't seen nothing like this. And they showed me a picture, and it looked like somebody had taken a fillet knife to him. And then the second picture was Kevin's skin in a baggie, a plastic baggie, where they had just ripped it off of them. It was horrible. And he's got a long recovery, but it was that was not a good night. It's not going to be a good night for the suspect, Brinsky Denard Gardner. Old Brinsky Denard Gardner is locked up in the county jail, and we've asked the state attorney's office to make him a special project as well.
Is that not a special, a certain offense if you attack a first responder?
Yes, it's a felony in and of itself, but this is clearly an aggravated battery, and Brinsky Denard Gardner and his set of very good teeth need to be locked up in the state prison for a long time.
Do you know if you guys have had run-ins with him before?
I don't know.
Isn't there a 911 call you're sharing with us?
Do we have a 911 call? There you go. All right, we're going to leave. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Anybody wants the affidavit on this one, send an email to swilder@polksheriff.org, and I'll send you the affidavit.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheep up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt-free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea, too, that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head, help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.